Welcome back, everyone. Well, if you live in this area, you know that we've got a bunch of really interesting cultural institutions. And up in Glens Falls, one of the best is the Chapman Museum. And I first met the executive director here, Tim Weidner, I think better part of 12 years ago. And you had already been there for a good 5 or 6 years. So
it has been a while now.
It's been a while. And every once in a while I ask Tim to come in because the Chapman is always putting on very interesting lectures and exhibits, and there's two of them that I want to talk about. So first, welcome back, Tim.
It's great to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you back again. We've got a very interesting, not the flowers, by the way, but we have a very interesting piece of equipment here. This harkens to days of digital photography, by the way. And this is called a stereograph and a stereoscope, right? And that has a lot to do with a lecture that you're giving tomorrow night.
That's right. Stereographs and stereo viewers, whatever you want to call them, were a really popular way for people to entertain themselves and others in Victorian times. And photographers would travel around the world and take pictures of all these exotic places, and they'd come back to the U.S., mass produce these stereographs and sell them. You could buy them wherever you were. You could sell them at the local stationery store or at the local hotel. And when you traveled, you go to places, and photographers in those places you would go to would take photographs of the sites in that area. In this area, it would be Saratoga Springs, Lake George, but every community would have photographers that would take photographs, produce these stereographs, and then sell them to people, whether it's people visiting the area or people that lived there and just wanted to have a keepsake of a particular memory, you might say.
Sure.
And we're going to do a talk tomorrow evening. Many people may know that the Chapman Museum has a collection of several thousand Seneca Ray Stoddard photographs taken of Lake George and the Adirondacks in the 1860s through the 80s. And he's really well known. But there were other photographers in the area as well. So we're doing a talk that just looks at 4 of these other photographers that produce these stereographs to sell to the public. And we have about 90 images that we've pulled together of their work. And they range from, well, Glens Falls, being as that's where we're located, but also quite a few of Lake George area, some surrounding towns. I can think of a couple images in Saratoga Springs because they would travel down here as well. And we're going to talk about the history of these 4 individuals. George Conkey, George Irish, I'm seeing if I can remember their names now.
Okay.
Louis Fillmore, and Alexander Orr. Hey, I got all 4 of them. That's pretty good. George Conkey was the first one. He started his business in Glens Falls in 1861 and was in business for another 30-some years, if I remember correctly. He originally came there to teach photography, and he had a number of assistants and other photographers that worked with him at different times. So he was sort of the first one, you might say. He even predated Stoddard starting up his business. There's one picture that comes to mind, which I think is probably my favorite one from the whole show. And it's actually a picture of this wooden bridge in Luzerne. It's just made out of boards. It wasn't even a covered bridge, which many people are familiar with. This was, well, probably wouldn't pass muster these days, but that's how they crossed the gorge in Luzerne at that time. It's a very rare photograph, and it shows, what I particularly like about it is shows what life was like in that time period.
Now, you know, I want to, there's so much we could talk about here, but I want to go back on a couple of things. The reason that they call these stereographs is that it was a very unique way by angling 2 cameras and sometimes using different lenses to produce what your mind perceives as a 3rd image, which is actually a 3D image. And the scope allows you to move the image in and out till it clicks in your brain in terms of the clarity of the image and then also the 3D. And you can understand why people would collect these by the thousands and entertain themselves with them, because quite honestly, they were the precursor to all this digital video stuff that you see today. Stoddard, by the way, I'm sure many of you know, is probably the best known photographer from the mid-1800s into the 1900s. And one of the reasons that the Chapman is so special is that they have an amazing collection. I know some artists like Ann Diggory who have gone there just to look at source them for research. And they also have an amazing collection of these stereographs, 90 of which will be part of this lecture that you have tomorrow night.
I got to make sure that I clarify, because some
Sure.
people will come in and want to see the actual original stereographs, but we keep them in storage.
Right, sure.
They're going to be seeing a digital reproduction of that. I just know there's always somebody that comes in and is really angry at me because they're not able to see the originals. Maybe we'll put a few out on a table so they can see them.
The only thing I can tell you, Tim, is you should see the phone calls I get once in a while.
I understand.
I also want to let you know that Chapman, like any museum, is always looking to develop new audiences and younger audiences. And one of the reasons they're doing these lectures, and you've been doing these Tuesday night lectures all winter long, right?
We started them this year. We call them Tuesday Talks.
Yeah, great.
We're going to take the summer off because we start doing walking tours,
right.
in downtown Glens Falls, and we'll start up again in September.
So this is really the last one of the Tuesday Talks, and I think probably one of the best. And then this summer they'll do some of these walking tours that they're famous for, and then in September they'll start back in again with the Tuesday Talks. Will somebody be able to actually use this?
Yeah, we'll have that at the event,
nice.
So that people can handle it carefully and try one out. They can get in line.
Yes. You know what? And handle it carefully is an understatement. If you look at the way this thing is constructed, and it's from the mid-1800s, and there's detail on it, and just the way it's made really harkens back to an era that is no more.
Now you go on Google.
Yeah, that's right. Well, Tim, it's always great to have you, and thank you for coming in.
Glad to be here.
Good luck with the talk tomorrow night and over the summer with the walking tours, and we'll have you back again when you kick off the series in September.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Nice to see you. To see this interview again, you can head to our website, LookTVonline.com.